Okay, moving right along. The Associated Press yesterday, July 11th, 2021, had an article out about UFO witnesses, and they're not buying into the government report. And really, how could you blame them? Um, anyhow, here we go. I'm going to read this a little bit. This was by Brian Broom. Okay. Mississippi Clarion Ledger. Okay. And it was an AP article. An anticipated preliminary report from the federal government was recently released on UFOs encountered by military personnel dating back to 2004, and its contents, or lack thereof, has some Mississippians upset. And now the article is going to get into this here a little bit, but one of the Mississippians is one of the people, one of the two surviving people of the 1973 Pascagoula abduction, which is an incredible story, and it's true. It really happened. Anyhow, while the report doesn't deny some may be extraterrestrial life forms traveling to Earth, it doesn't offer that as a possible explanation either. I don't believe they're being straight up, Calvin Parker of Moss Point said. The Department of Defense could come a little cleaner about what they've got. I just really believe there's more out there than what they're saying. Of course, he's right. He's totally right. Parker was a part of one of history's most famous UFO cases. He, along with now deceased Charles Hickson, claimed that they were abducted by aliens the night of October 11th, 1973, while fishing from a bank of the Pascagoula River. The two said they were levitated by aliens into a football-shaped craft, examined, and then released. The two contacted the Jackson County Sheriff's Office and reported the incident. According to Parker, the two both passed sobriety tests as well as polygraph tests. Parker said he also passed a voice stress test. Parker remained largely quiet about the event until he wrote a book in 2018 giving his account of what happened, and later a second book. The report was released to the public on June 25th by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and refers to UFOs as unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP. In preliminary assessment, unidentified aerial phenomena, the Pentagon's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force gives an overview of 144 observations by U.S. government sources. One object was determined to be a partially deflated balloon, and 80 of the observations involved multiple sensors. In a handful of cases, advanced technology appeared to have been demonstrated. In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics, the report stated. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. The report indicated the observations could likely be explained by 5 possible things: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. government or industry developmental programs, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin, but no mention of extraterrestrial crafts. Parker said the investigations and report are too little, too late. They're just trying to satisfy everybody by telling them just a little bit, Parker said. They should have done this a long time ago. I think they probably did, but didn't want to tell it. They didn't want to cause a panic. And then it goes on, there's a little subhead here. It says, Mississippi woman weighs in on own sighting, government UFO report. Rosie Nail of Moss Point is also unhappy with the report. Nail was hundreds of miles away from Pascagoula the night Hickson and Parker said they were abducted, but said she witnessed something that was not from this world. Nail, who was northeast of Grenada in the town of Bruce, said she saw a light moving across the sky that night, and it separated into 2 lights. One orb moved closer to her and became as large as the sun and began changing colors. It then rejoined the other object and shot out of sight. It was an event she said isn't explained by any possibilities in the report. It was otherworldly, whatever that encompasses, Nail said. It was purposeful. It maneuvered. It went up and down, and it went sideways, and it shot up in the sky. I don't think it's military of any country. I think with technology advances, they would know if it was from other countries. Whatever the truth is, I think we should know about it. Amen to that. Amen to that, I say. Yeah, we should know about it. Here's another subhead. It's a direct quote. It says here, I've never gotten over what I saw that night. That's the quote. And here's the little piece that goes with it. Maria Blair and her late husband, Jerry Blair of Theodore, Alabama, were on the opposite side of the Pascagoula River from Hickson and Parker on October 11th, 1973. In an earlier interview, the two said they watched a blue light move across the sky and hover before it landed about 150 to 200 yards away. Jerry was waiting for a boat to pick him up to take him to his job offshore and paid little attention to the light as his thoughts were on work. When the boat arrived, Maria said she heard a splash in the water as she walked down the pier. She looked down and saw what looked like a person in a wetsuit in the water. After she heard Parker's description of the aliens he said he was abducted by, she said it matched what she saw. After watching television newscasts and learning the report did not offer alien life forms as a possible explanation, Blair, like Parker, said government officials are withholding information. Here's a direct quote from Blair. Ever since that night in 1973, the world knows we're not alone. The government knows we're not alone. These humanoids are not from other countries. They're so more advanced than us. I've never gotten over what I saw that night. These humanoids are not from this earth. The report is preliminary, which suggests a second is expected, but when and if it will be released to the public was not included in the document. Parker, who's 67 and battling health issues, said he hopes more information is released that will shed light on what he and Hickson said happened to them, but he's not sure if it will. And here's a direct quote from Mr. Parker. I wish they'd tell us so I can go to my grave knowing what they know. I'd just like to have some kind of answer before I die, and that's not a long ways away, but I don't think we're going to get it from Congress or the Department of Defense. Look at that. Look at that. I'll leave a link in the description for this article. It's a very good article by the Associated Press. Yeah, the Pascagoula 1973 incident was very, very strange. These two guys, you should really look that up and read about it because it's an incredible story, and it's a true story. These guys weren't lying, or why would they make this up? Okay, no reason to make it up, and it's just an incredible story. Not only that, one of the interesting aspects of this story was after this event happened, these two guys, Parker and Hickson, went to the cops and tried to tell the cops told the cops what happened, and then the cop left a tape recorder in the room and left the room, and the tape recorder was still recording, and those two guys didn't know it, and when they listened to the recording later on, the cops, they realized, these two guys were talking about what just happened. They weren't like making up a story. They were just both of them were in total shock. And the aliens, the beings that took them, they're unlike other incidents that you hear about. These things look like, you have to see the pictures of these things. I mean, they're just a horrible looking things. They look like mummies or something. It was just a weird kind of beings that just came out and grabbed the two of them. Like 3D beings came out of this spacecraft and just basically the two guys were stunned and they got grabbed by these things and brought in, and then they were given some sort of physicals. It was a terribly amazing, terrifying story. And, it's just, you feel bad for people like this, because, that, as far as I'm concerned, they were telling the truth. They're telling the truth. But you know what? A lot of people don't believe it. And when the government continues to hide this and sit on this information, sit on what they know, these guys go through their whole lives. A lot of people go through their whole lives looking like nuts to some people. That's not fair. That's not fair. It's just not fair. And so this guy's 67, Mr. Parker, Mr. Hickson's deceased now, so he never got any answers from the government. And Mr. Parker is 67 years old, and he's having health issues, and he doesn't think he's ever going to hear anything. So think about that. So, people like him, concerned that they're not going to know the truth before they die. They're not going to, be presented with what the government knows about this. A lot of people just want the verification so they could say, see, I'm not crazy. And plus they want to know more about what these things are. What do you know? What's going on here? You're the government. You're supposed to tell us these things, not keep it secret. It gets you angry when you think about it. Very angry.